256 with Noah Michael. How do I say your last name? Levine? Levine?
Levine.
God damn it. Well, that's how that's the foot we're getting off on this. But for everyone listening, so I emailed Mr. Levine because I had looked at the title of a book, and I just, because trying to find guests for the podcast, I find books that I think are interesting, and I email the authors, and I guess I glanced at the Audible version, and I contacted you, and you were like, "Hey Tommy, like, glad you like the book. I didn't write that," and I was just like, "What the fuck?" And you were like, "I'm the narrator," and I looked at it and I was like, "Oh damn it!" And then I can't even take credit for this. You were like, "If you ever want a narrator on the podcast." And I stopped and thought, and I was like, dude, my Audible library, I shit you not right now, is at 1,077 titles. So,
damn.
Yeah, I haven't listened to most of them, but I tear through probably like 8 to 10 hours a day of audio. I love audiobooks. And I never thought about that. And I've become a bit of like a snob when I have on. I'll be like, this is a great book. I'll be like, narration is perfect. Sometimes like narration sucks. And I'm just becoming a snob, and someone needs to punch me. But I had never thought of it.
No.
Yeah.
Look, it's all subjective, right?
Yeah.
It's like some people love an actor's voice, some people don't.
Yeah.
And your preference is your preference.
Yeah.
And it's all good.
Yeah. And yeah, but so before I go in and start talking out of my ass even more so than I already have, how about you introduce yourself for all the good listeners?
Okay. I'm Noah Michael Levine. Obviously, I'm a smoker, which is somewhat at odds with my profession.
Yeah.
I used to be a singer. Can't really do that much anymore. I've been narrating for about 7.5, 8 years. Got about 375 titles.
Yeah.
Audio award, independent audiobook award. I've worked on some projects that just were incredible, and the other stuff, it's when publishers send you material to work on, regardless of how you feel about the material, as a narrator, it's your job to bring voice and performance to that text.
Yes.
So that's the job.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So for like, how does one even, so in my simpleton mind, I'm like, oh, it's an 8-hour audiobook. It took 8 hours to record. But because nothing is that easy, but it's like everything, right? You're like, that must be easy. And then, it's like, oh, working in an ice cream shop must be awesome. And then you go work at an ice cream shop and you're like, this fucking sucks, right? It's so, but then there's something like, all of my jobs that comes out to that. But then like with podcasting, like this is something where I'm like, I'm 256 episodes in and I'm like, I love it. And there are, you got to, some of them are harder, but you got to bring it to life. And is it, what is it? What is the process? So what happens? How do they choose you? Is there a studio you go to? Do you do it at home? How do they tell when to do retakes? Is that your discretion to say, like, I need to redo that? What is it?
Okay. So there are different sort of categories of projects. So there's the publisher originated projects. So you've got Audible, Penguin Random House, Dreamscape, Tantor, Hachette, Simon & Schuster. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of them, right? And so as narrators, we want to be on the radar of all of these publishers so we have an opportunity to work for them. Sometimes we get on their roster, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get on their roster, but not on their radar.
Okay.
But so my career basically started out with Audible. And for the first several years, I only worked for Audible, and I did the publisher projects that they sent me. And Audible has a platform called ACX, which stands for the Audiobook Creation Exchange. That is for authors who are independently published, who don't want to sell their audio rights to a publisher, where they can connect with narrators to get their audiobooks produced.
Okay.
But ACX is owned by Audible. So that's all, for the first 3 years or so of my career, I was either doing Audible projects or ACX projects. In the beginning, I was doing Audible. I don't know if they do it anymore. They had these 13-week contracts. So you'd be hired by them, or I'd be hired by them for a period of 13 weeks. They would send me just a fuck ton of books, and I would just work my way through them.
Okay.
There was no, like, I get to pick what I want.
Yeah.
It's just what they send you is what you do.
Yeah.
Now, you know, they're great about it. If there's something that you really don't want to do, there's something about the material that is, I don't know, at odds with your feelings or line of thought, you can say, you know what, I'd really rather not do this title, and we'll give you something else.
Sure.
So you go through the recording process, and typically it can take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours to record 1 hour of audio.
Okay.
And that can vary based on all different kinds of things. Are there difficult words to pronounce that you might screw up and have to go redo? So, you know, we operate primarily on what's called a punch and roll method, which is where if you make a mistake, you stop the recording. In the software you're using, you put the cursor right before the mistake, you hit record, and then you record over the mistake, and you keep going.
Okay.
So it's called punch and roll. Sometimes, for whatever reason, material, as you're reading it on the page, there's a certain connection that happens between the eyes, the brain, the mouth, and your kind of awareness of all the different parts of the process working at the same time, where everything just really clicks. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you could go for several minutes or more without making any mistakes because, and it's different for every narrator, you know, it just depends on how mechanically it all coordinates with how you do things.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be because the particular book really resonates with you. So you're really, really in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes, even if you're not as much, deeply in it, it still has to do with the way the book was written. If it was really well edited, and believe me, there are a lot of books that aren't. Yeah. So everything just clicks. But then you can get a book that is not so well edited, or for whatever reason, it's just there's no syncopation. So you wind up making a mistake in like almost every sentence. Yeah. So it takes a lot longer to do that.
Yeah.
In the case of publisher originated projects, you send the raw files to them or to an editor that they have chosen, and then that person will work on the files. They'll go through. They'll take out if there's some errant noises in there. If there are reading mistakes, those will get marked, and they'll make it sound nice and polished. And when they're done with it, you'll get a list of what are called pickups.
Okay.
So these are mistakes that you've made while recording the book that have to be fixed. You record those fixes, you send them back, the editor plunks them in where they go, and that's it.
Sure.
With the independent projects, a narrator has the option to do the editing and mastering themselves, or they can hire someone else to do it. If you're doing it yourself, you're adding another hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah, per hour.
Per finished hour of audio.
Okay.
Everything in our industry is based on per finished hours.
Okay.
That's how we get paid. That's what it all comes down to. So for the post-production process, a narrator is either spending time or spending money.
Okay.
To have somebody else. So, I have a guy that I've been using, Terrell Harrell from Tide Def Media. He's down in Atlanta. I've been working with him on my independent projects for a really long time. He's a great guy. So that's basically the process.
Yeah. So first, I write down notes because otherwise I start interrupting people like a jackass. So it's like, dude, I have early episodes I'd go back and listen, and I would just be like, who the hell is this host? And I'd be like, oh my God, it's me. But it's so one thing, but I remember from middle school, you know, that wonderful anxiety-inducing, you know, Mr. Kerrigan, how about you read chapter 3? Like, fuck. Like, all right, you know, Otto von Bismarck. Like, but what I always found is like, I would read a chapter aloud in class, and I would have no idea what I just read. After I would go through 10 minutes, and I would be so anxious. They'd be like, Tommy, what do you think about that? And I just, in my mind, I'd be like, I was just the narrator, man. I don't even know what I just talked about. But you read that same chapter by yourself sitting on the toilet, you extract all of it. You're like, oh, okay, you know, like the Black Hand, assassinating Archduke Franz Ferdinand, World War I got it. But you read it aloud, and you're like, I might have just been talking about Jesus Christ of Nazareth or like a thermonuclear bomb in Bikini Atoll. Like, I have no idea. Does that happen to you? Do you extract everything? I mean, granted, you know, are you interested? Are you hungover? Like, there's a bunch of different variables. Am I tired?
Right,
Is this hour 13 of the day? But just in general, do you have that?
Narrating and reading aloud are not necessarily the same thing.
Okay.
So like I can't tell you, and this happens to most narrators. I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and they've said, you know, so-and-so told me I have a great voice, and, you know, my kids love it when I read them bedtime stories. You know, I want to be a narrator. And the thing is that there are so many different aspects of what it takes to be an audiobook narrator.
Yeah.
It sounds simple on the surface, but it's really not.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, I totally get that. And I remember when I was in school, I was asked to read something aloud, and I've been acting since I was 9 years old, right? I'd still be like,
just blank.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, but as an audiobook narrator, you know, you want to have some kind of background in acting, I mean, preferably theater, but doesn't have to be just theater. What really attracts me to this particular medium is like the potent intimacy of it. You know, if you're on stage, your voice has to reach the back row.
Yeah.
Even in film and television, which can also be very, very intimate, people are sitting back from the screen and they're watching you. But when you listen to an audiobook, presumably with headphones, that narrator's in your fucking head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to be extra mindful of everything from intonation, diction, pacing. You know, in most cases, that the concept of less is more is really true in this medium.
Yeah.
But you also have to be aware of your recording software, your distance from the mic, when to move up, when to move back. You know, your physical presence. Like you asked me before, where do I record? I have a booth I record in at home.
Sure.
So, you know, your physicality in the booth and how it relates to the energy that you're putting into the words you're saying. Connecting with the material and the characters in a way that brings realism to what you're doing. Because, you know, anybody can read words on a page, but if you don't understand the intention of what the character is saying or the emotion, it's not going to come across as anything but flat.
Yeah.
So there are all these different nuances to the work that we do, and it's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you, like, you know, the times that I've gotten into like a really good run where I'll do like maybe 5 or 10 minutes without screwing up. Yeah. It's because I'm so embedded in the story. Yeah. Everything else just kind of happens.
Get in that flow state.
Naturally. Right? Yeah.
Just
totally.
Yeah. You start. Yeah. Just vibing with it. Like that's what I was going to ask is like, are there stories that you kind of just swept up in, like, emotionally?
Yeah,
feel like that would help a lot, right?
it does help a lot. And when you're not as emotionally connected, the job's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't let you off the hook.
Yeah, you got to turn it on, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I did a fantasy, 5-book fantasy series. It was kind of like in the genre of Game of Thrones meets Lord of the Rings kind of stuff. Written by this guy, Phil Tucker, called The Chronicles of the Black Gate.
Okay.
And man, it was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
The story has a lot to do with, as most conflict stories do, the battle between good and evil. And also that there's sometimes really a moving line. You can have a character be completely flawed and sort of a villain, but also possess like really strong, good, positive qualities.
Yeah.
So it's, it can kind of blur, which is great because then that character, they're not one dimensional.
Yeah.
They're not only a hero or they're not only a bad guy.
Yeah.
They're like all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all deeply flawed and we're all really fucking great.
Yeah, right. Like Pablo Escobar burning $2 million in cash to keep his daughter warm.
Yeah.
That's not a bad person. That's a good dad, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
There was a strong religious underpinning to the storyline, and it involves basically a caste system of both humans and non-humans living in this universe that this guy Phil Tucker created, and how power is abused, and the real kind of genesis of without talking about God necessarily, about spirituality and what's the word I'm looking for?
Metaphysics, ethics.
In a sense, yeah.
Okay. And it just,
in a sense,
yeah. And I was gonna say, so does it help? Now, does it help to read the book beforehand? Because I could imagine if, let's say, you're reading this like epic story, I'm looking at it from projecting my own views onto it. Like sometimes I've had on guests that were just so fucking interesting. I had to go back and listen to it because like I wasn't there in person. I was like listening to them. I was like, holy shit. And like I had to go. So are there books where like they sweep you off your feet and then you go into it like, I'm going to narrate the fuck out of this? Or does it help to not know the story and so it's a completely organic, whenever I'll start chatting with someone and we're going to do a podcast and we'll be on the phone or email, I'll be like, stop right now, save this for the podcast, because I want a genuine reaction. I don't want some bullshit like ha 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 ha. I want to actually be, I want to be like shitting my pants like, holy fuck, I can't believe that happened. Like what is there any, does it help to read beforehand? Do you like to read it beforehand, or is not enough time in the day, or you're just like, dude, I gotta fucking read this book, I can't?
All right, so I'll be honest, and you can't tell anybody this. So in the early part of my career, for the most part, I did not read books first. I like to go in there and I like to experience the book as a reader would.
Okay.
And that's like exactly what you were saying before.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be surprised when the surprises come up. I want to be hurt when the hard parts come.
Yeah.
And, in some ways, if you know ahead of time what's happening, possibly it can alter your performance.
Absolutely.
But technically speaking, in this industry, we are supposed to read the books ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, and actually, in all honesty, that series that I was just talking about, I did not read in advance. I didn't decide ahead of time what character voices I was going to use. They came to me as I came upon the character in the book.
Sure.
And in fantasy books typically have tons and tons of characters in the series. There were hundreds throughout the 5 books.
Yeah.
And that part it's fun, it's challenging. Nowadays, I try to be a good boy and do my prep work, or hire somebody to do prep work for me. But with some of the independent projects I do, I've been working with the same authors for a long, long time, and the books are part of series, so I really don't need to read those books or even skim them ahead of time. The author will send me a list of any new characters, and it's interesting. With all the work that I did for Audible had, or maybe still does have, a policy that when you get hired to do a book, they want you to reach out to the author, say hi, and just introduce yourself. And I would always ask in my emails, are there any characters in your books where you hear a particular type of voice? If it's not described that they have a New York accent or they're from England, do you hear anything particular? And give them an opportunity to have some input. Most publishers don't have you do that. And each publisher has different sort of guidelines on, whether or not you can give a character an accent if it's not explicitly stated in the material that they have that accent. And certainly with the independent projects, the author has a little bit more input than when you're working for a publisher.
Yeah.
It's one of the interesting things about audiobook narration. So when you listen to an audiobook, particularly fiction, and you're not reading the book, because I don't know, like, everybody's different.
I don't read anything. I only do Audible.
Okay.
I don't read anything.
All right. So people who read, and I am not a reader.
Yeah.
I've never been an avid reader.
Yeah.
I would imagine that some people, when they're reading a book and they're reading dialogue, they hear certain voices in their head to attribute to that character.
Yeah.
With audiobooks, you as the listener, you are being forced to accept our interpretation of what these characters sound like.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing,
but
that's why you get good reviews and bad reviews, because sometimes a person, maybe they have read the book and now they want to listen to the book.
Yeah.
And when they read the book, they heard something completely different in their heads.
Yeah.
And you're making them hear your interpretation.
Fuck you, right? It's like, it's
right.
You know, I read this book, I remember, like, I did read Harry Potter. I read that. But even then, I didn't read that till like 2014. But yeah, I remember reading it and then watching the movies. And part of me was like, fuck you, this isn't how I imagined it. And then it was like, who owes me that? Who owes me that it looks like I think it looks like? And second of all, how the hell would they even know?
They wouldn't.
Exactly.
And everybody's got a different interpretation.
So maybe you just gotta, so if you're doing Audible, maybe, or audio books, maybe you just gotta, like, it can't be something you've read before, right? Because maybe you just can't go into it with an I don't mean you, the reader, or I guess the narrator. I mean the listener. Like, I wouldn't go in and everything I listen to on Audible is something I've never listened to before, and I certainly have not read before.
Right.
Maybe you got to go into it as a listener. If I'm, don't listen to your favorite Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, whatever. You got to go in and choose a new book, because otherwise,
or you've got to be willing to take the chance.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to be willing to take the chance that what you hear is not going to. You have to be open.
Yeah.
To another interpretation.
Yeah.
There are certain movies that have been remade over the years.
Yeah.
Certainly in theater.
Yeah.
Shakespeare plays that have been done, thousands of times by different troupes with different interpretations. So you have to go into the whole thing being open to an interpretation different than what you may already have preconceived.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you can't if you can't take that leap of faith, then I don't know how you're getting through life. If you can't hear your favorite book narrated by a voice that maybe is different than the one you ascribe to it, maybe I don't know how you get out of bed in the morning. If that's your hurdle, hey man, I don't know. We all have our own battles, so I don't want to belittle them.
Yeah.
So this is kind of more of a stupid question, but I'm just thinking of like, I was pre-med in college. I graduated UGA 2013, got into medical school, and I can vividly remember every single day for years just always being behind the eight ball. Like, I gotta read this. And fear is a good thing. Fear is a good motivator. Are you ever behind schedule? Do you ever read, and this sounds like some like Wile E. Coyote shit, do you ever read really fast and then like slow it down? Or, like, fuck, I gotta get through this, like, and you do an hour every half hour?
I
take some Adderall and some coffee.
I have at times felt that, just generally speaking, that I tend toward pacing that is too fast, and over the past few years I've really worked on that to keep my pacing more in line with the scene I'm reading.
Yeah.
So if it's a battle scene or a chase scene, your pacing's going to be naturally faster. If it's a quiet conversation, you got to slow that shit down.
Yeah.
When I'm behind the eight ball, that doesn't come into the booth with me. I feel all that anxiety and that stress and that pressure when I'm outside the booth, but when I close that door, I have to be in that moment with that book and do what's right for that book, regardless of, whether I'm behind schedule or not.
Yeah.
Every narrator has a different construct for how they do their job. A fun fact, I've had chronic health stuff for over 20 years.
Okay.
So my energy is probably more finite throughout the course of a given day than most regular folk. So I know lots of narrators that could bang out an 8-hour book in 3 or 4 days. For me, because I can't be in the booth for that much time in a given day, I typically need longer turnaround times.
Sure.
And I'll typically work on multiple books at the same time. So there have been times when I overscheduled myself, when I was fucking doing like 5 books at one time. So I know for each book, I have a certain start date and a certain end date. And there are X number of pages, so I have to do X number of pages per day to finish on time. And if I've got 3, 4, 5 books going, then I know that I've got to get 6 pages on this book, 5 pages on that book, 12 pages on this book. And up to about 3 books, it's not too overwhelming. But in the times when I've overscheduled myself, you feel it, man.
Yeah.
You feel it.
Yeah, I've been explaining to people, I've been trying to get this podcast to make money, and I've finally found someone that was willing to, I wouldn't even say invest, more so sponsor it. Kind of give me a chance to be like, hey, let's see if you can take some time off, because I was working at a liquor store and it was taking all my time, and I was like, what if I just had some time to just do the podcast? And this individual was like, yeah, sure, let's try it out for a couple months. You just do your thing. You find your guest, do it, hands off. Let's just see what happens. Well, I got like so psyched up that I had this chance to prove myself, and that I'm currently in this trial period, that I always called it the 95% ghost rate, which means that if I send emails and cold call people, it's about a 95% people just don't respond. Not a yes or a no, they just don't respond, which...
That's typical in sales.
Sure, yeah, which I'm okay with. I'm like, hey, it is what it is, If that's the thing that's going to keep me from doing this, well, then I probably didn't have that great of resolve to do it in the first place. So, and of the 5 that respond, 1 say yes, which is fine. So I would... I started this podcast this past December in 2019. I would just shoot out all these emails. Finally, I would get someone, and then I would have that, I would say, like, notable guest quote. And then in between, I would just find my friends to come on and just try to fillers. Well, for whatever reason, the stars aligned, and I sent out all these emails right when I got sponsored, and I was like, fuck yeah. And I sent out like 15 emails, which isn't even a lot. I did that in one day. Normally do that for 5 days, you'll get one reply. I got 15 responses,
Wow.
all saying yes, which is a wonderful thing, and it's a wonderful problem to have, but it was a problem to have, because this was about 13 days ago, and I scheduled an author every day, but because it's about a 95% ghost rate, I don't read the books before. I find a book that I know I'll be interested in. Like, I don't ask someone, hey, a history of fucking slippers. Do you want to do my pod? Like, I'm not going to read that book. You know, I'm just not, right? And not to hate on any slipper historians, but I can't hate on them, man. I've got them on right now. But like,
There you go.
But I find books like that I'm interested. Like the book you've narrated, The Burn Pits. Like, I just Cold War shit, spy shit, space shit, weapons, all that. I know I'll like it, but because I'm, at the time I was working at the liquor store, I got to do this. Like, I can't be listening to 95 books knowing that no one's going to respond. So I would just wait till I found, right? So I have all these guests, build up this whole story. I have all these guests that looks like a good book. That looks like, JFK, CIA, Vietnam War, bomber, stealth bomber. Okay, cool shit. Well, 15 out of 15 said yes. And I was like, well, I dug this hole. I am going to climb out of it. In the future, I was like, I am not going to schedule more than 2 authors a week. But I was like, right now, I'm going to put on my big boy pants, and I can't bitch about getting what I wanted. So all that story to say, I get what you're talking about when it's like, man, I am behind the 8 ball, and like, it's a simple mathematical equation where you're like, I have a guest tomorrow. They have a 20-hour audiobook. I just woke up at 7 a.m. This thing better be playing before I get out of bed, and it better be on 2x speed. And don't you dare. You go to the gym, you go to the store, you come home talking. Hey, I'm fucking listening. You're in the shower. It's Lee Harvey Oswald got his Carcano rifle and went to Dallas, Texas, and you're just like fucking brushing your teeth and stuff. And then it's like right before you come on, it's like Noah would like to join the podcast and pause. And but. Yeah, I know. I would like to say I know what you're talking about, and like, you just gotta do it, and you can get it done, but it's certainly, I would say the quality is strained, at least for me.
So, do you have a sponsor you want to plug?
Do I have a sponsor I want to plug? No, I wish I fucking anyone listening to this podcast. You want to sponsor this podcast? Come sponsor me. No, I have an investor, but no sponsor. I'm trying to get a sponsor, man.
All right.
Why?
Well, I thought you had said earlier that the person who was a sponsor.
They're sponsoring. I misunderstood. Sorry, no, they're sponsoring in the sense that they like it.
Right.
They found it organically and were like, "Hey, this is a cool thing." And I got talking to the guy, and I was like, "Yo, if you like it already," I was like, "This is me working at a liquor store, and I'm tired all the time. Like, give me, sort of." Get the chains off and let's see what I can do. So it's I don't have it. No, not a sponsor in that sense, but yeah, and I get them done. I get the books done, but I like to listen to a book like 3 or 4 times when I have the author on. I like to really understand it, and I feel like now I'm just kind of like McDonald's Happy Mealing it. Now got it. Thanks for coming on. Next book, and it's just like it's great. And I love them, and I'm so appreciative of the authors. But for me, I'm like, I feel like I'm not giving them the attention they deserve. And apparently, I can't do one podcast without fucking talking about myself. So there we go.
Well, we're having a conversation,
True.
It's not a soliloquy on my part.
Sure, it's the autobiography of Noah Michael Levine. Dude, I have to go pee so badly.
So do what you have to do.
I'll do what I'll have to do. Fuck, I'm just going to go right here. No, I'm not. Monologue oh, thank God, you're a narrator. I always tell people to monologue, and I fear I'm putting them on the spot, but I've got an actual narrator. I can monologue for 10 minutes. I'm going to go do some laundry. I'm kidding. I'm just going to go piss.
I got nothing. So here, I'm going to plug this book, which is not a book I narrated. It's written by an old friend of mine called Jack DiPietro, Life Behind Bars, and it's about this place called The Office here in the town where I grew up and moved away from and came back to. And really interesting place, a lot of interesting characters, incredible music. And so he wrote a memoir, and this is where I am, just kind of in the beginning. I'd read from it, but if you don't know the place, I don't know if it would tickle your fancy.
Do you, so another note, I'm back.
Well, hi there.
Well, hey there. I got, so one of the notes I wrote down is I was thinking like a true sane person, you know, whenever in college or something, I'd just take it. All I did was study. So like once every 2 months, I'd have a night off, and I wouldn't even want to go out. So what I would do is just, you know, I would just get like a bottle of vodka and play some video games and just trying to, you know, hang out with myself, which is the best fucking way to go. Fuck going out to a bar, dude. Fucking turn on the Xbox, throw on some games, dude. Surround sound, get that shit going. Yeah. Woo.
Who needs to pay $14 for a glass of vodka?
Exactly. When you can spend $9 and get a gallon of wine and play a video game that you downloaded for free. Fuck that, man. I'll drive around Grand Theft Auto blowing up armored trucks. Fuck going out to the bars, man. But sometimes, you know, I would just find myself like, you know, just if it was a game I'd played a lot, I would just start like reciting the lines. But, you know, as I got drunker, if I was smoking pot, you know, I'd get really into it and I would just start like kind of narrating it. Do you ever get, and I don't know if you can say this with like contracts and stuff, but do you ever get like a little tipsy or like a little fucked up before like narrating? Like, is there any like certain, no, okay, like slurred words, I guess, yeah.
You know, I'm a vodka man myself. I mean, that's my drink of choice with one colossal green olive stuffed with blue cheese. That's what I drink at night.
Fuck yeah.
Pretty much every night.
Fuck yeah.
But I never drink before or during working because it just wouldn't be, it wouldn't be doing right by the author or the listeners.
Sure. If you ever got to a point where, let's say, you were completely set and you just took books, you know, like a Leonardo DiCaprio or something, right? He does the film he wants to do. If you ever got to a point where you could just do the book you wanted to, would you ever like toy around with that? Not even in a sense of like, you know, let's get high before work so the job's less shitty. Like, could it be performance enhancing? Maybe like, you know, take a shot of vodka. Like, if you get more into the emotion, you know, smoke a joint, could you get more into the sci-fi world? Could you see it in your mind? I mean, and I'm being hypocritical because I've done 256 episodes sober, and if you ask me what I do, I'd be like, no, that's gonna fuck it up. So I don't know why I'm pushing it on you.
It's an interesting question because in an earlier portion of my life, I had a band. I had a band for about 8 years. This goes back to the early to late 80s, and we worked hard, and we got a record deal, and we lost a record deal, and that was kind of the end of things. We played a lot of live shows, and yeah, I would drink during live shows.
Yeah.
That kind of performing, as long as I didn't go too far with lubrication, it actually, I think, at times did enhance the performance, because being on stage in front of people is a very different experience than being in a recording booth, right? And plus, when you're playing a live show in a bar, everyone else is drinking, so there's a little bit of symbiosis going on. Mm-hmm. But I've never brought that into narration. So I guess the answer to your question is, in certain circumstances, maybe, yeah. For my particular circumstance of narration, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I remember a play that I did. This is when I was living in Los Angeles, called 8 Ball. And it was about these 5 guys playing 8 Ball. A call from Alhambra. I don't know anybody in Alhambra anymore anyway.
Mr. Alhambra or Mrs. or wherever the hell you're from, please stop interrupting this podcast. It's very rude. We're talking. Fucking people from Alhambra, I swear to God.
I'm telling you.
They're all the same.
So we literally built a bar.
Yeah.
And brought in a pool table.
Yeah.
And we got smashed every fucking night doing that play.
Fuck yeah. But I feel like you have to for some things, right?
Well,
or not.
I guess every actor has a different thought or feeling about how they approach their craft.
Yeah.
There's method acting and there's other types of factions in the acting world of how to study Stanislavski and Lee Strasberg and all that, and everybody has a different thought on it. You look at a guy like Richard Burton, who was an incredible actor, and the stories you read of him being drunk on set.
Yeah.
But then you got a guy like Orson Welles, who was probably an alcoholic, who couldn't get through a scene because he was so drunk.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not something that I could do with audiobook narration.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking. Yeah, I was imagining for like some scenes, maybe you'd I don't know, like really like an emotional scene, right? Like a drama or something. Maybe a couple drinks would help you feel it more, right? Because you ever watch like a movie you've seen a million times sober, and it's like, whatever, it's kind of funny, or whatever. And then you watch it like shit-faced with your friends, and you're like, never have I been so moved by Will Ferrell and Anchorman. And it's just like, it's because you're fucking half in the bag. And it's like, he's not doing any emotional acting, but you're just like, I fucking feel for you, like, But it's like, I don't know. I was just, and again, being a total hypocrite, because I don't even drink anymore. So like, I'm saying you should do that. And meanwhile, if anyone told me to do it on this, I'd be like, you're going to ruin my podcast. Fuck off.
I don't, being a bit older, and hopefully wiser, and in part that means the older I get and the more I learn, the more I realize I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I don't party the way I used to.
Sure.
Not at all.
No one can.
Well, people do.
People, but I guess very few do it gracefully. Right.
It's not. Yeah. Gracefulness does not go hand in hand with getting fucked up.
Yeah. Like you could definitely keep doing it. Like my uncle or dad, like they could go to the bar and but like at what point are you like, dude, this isn't sexy. I'm not 19. Like this isn't like party every night. This is like, you have a problem. It's like, what do you do? It's like, dude, we're just fucking living for the moment. It's like, you don't pay rent. What are you doing? And it's just fucking, YOLO. And it's like, your car is towed. Like, your parents are worried about you, man. Like, you don't have health insurance. You're like, thirsty Thursdays. And it's like, you are a disgrace. It's, yeah, but time. Like, I don't want to. Okay, yeah, I still got you for 12 minutes.
If we had done this podcast like at 8 p.m., I definitely would be having my cocktail while we're talking.
Yeah, that's fine, dude. People drink on here. People smoke on here. I don't give a shit. I don't have any hate for it, man. Do it. It's so because a lot of guests are just audio, and I think that's me just overlapping my ability to study. That I just grinded into my brain from being pre-med in college. And that's probably why a lot of guests I just find books, because I'm like already I have that sort of like mental muscle memory where I just know how to just, like I said, 7 a.m. wake up and it's like, you got to be studying now. Like you should have been studying 10 seconds ago. Some guests I have on that their book isn't on Audible, and I always chastise them for that. And like a real douchebag, right? But I get it on Kindle, and before that, if I could only find a book on Kindle, I would just cancel the podcast. I'd be like, something came up, because I'm just like, I'm not gonna read. Like, I just know myself. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to me. Let's stop bullshitting each other. I'm not gonna read this book. Like, I'm sorry. But once I found it on Kindle and I realized you can get your iPhone to read it to you, that kind of opened my they kind of opened it up more to who I could have on, because I would just have my phone read it to me, and it's in that really shitty robot voice, like chapter 1. It was a sunny day and it's all off tone and shit, and it's really kind of uncanny valley-ish, but it gets the job done, and I can listen to it. But when I have those people on this podcast, I always tell them, I'm like, you gotta get your book narrated, and one thing they always say is, I don't even know how to go about that. To which I say, neither do I. I'm just bitching without actually offering a solution, like a real asshole. What is the and I know you explained this earlier, what is the process that, like, they would get in touch with you? Is that even an avenue? If I just said, hey, I got you a narrator, put your goddamn book up.
There are different routes that an author can take, right? An author can sell, well, okay, it also depends on, are they an independently published author, or was their book published by, a big publisher, medium-sized publisher, whatever. So that's one thing. Their contract if they are with a publisher, their contract may or may not include audio rights. If the contract includes audio rights, then it's sort of in the publisher's corner to get that book made into audio. If the author is an independently published author, or the audio rights are not packaged in with their contract with the publisher, then they can either A, try and sell the audio rights to that publisher or to a different publisher, or they can produce it independently on their own through the platform I mentioned before, which is ACX, Audiobook Creation Exchange. There's another company called Findaway Voices, and there are dozens and dozens of narrators like me who are also producers. So if you're an indie author, there are forums on Facebook where they can join to try and connect with narrators. They can scroll through samples of similar books on Audible, similar books to theirs, to listen to the voices that narrated those books, to see if a voice kind of clicks for them. Okay. And then most of us have websites, so we can be found. So that's another way to go about it. Trying to think if I'm leaving anything out. Those are the main ways, and the author, they kind of have to weigh out if they sell the audio rights, they might get like a chunk of money. Could be small, could be medium, could be large, and then they're out. They're not responsible for marketing. They don't really. Well, sometimes they get a say in who narrates the book. Some of the publishers I work for will, like when they have a new book they're working on, will reach out to 2 or 3 different narrators for an audition, send the auditions to the author, and the author can pick the narrator. That happens sometimes. But largely when you sell your audiobook rights, you get your bit of money and then you're out of the picture. Mm-hmm. If you go the independent route, it's probably going to cost you something up front, but your potential to earn over a longer period of time could be much greater than if you sell your audio rights. But then you have to deal with marketing it, which, that could take more money. So it just kind of depends on whether they think they can do better in the long run by going independent, or if they just want to get a little cash and just be happy that it'll get out there. Yeah. But in this day and age, one thing that you can mention to your authors who are not in audio is that for the past 6-7 years, audiobooks have been the fastest growing sector in publishing.
That's what I tell them.
And then I'm talking double digits year over year.
Yeah.
Spoken word, with the advent of audiobooks and now podcasts and original audio plays, all this stuff. Spoken word has made like an incredible advance in terms of popularity.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of a no-brainer that if you're writing a book, it should get on audio.
Yeah, that's what I always tell them. I'm like, dude, like it's the idea that you can sit down and focus on a page and try not to get off, start daydreaming, versus you can have someone reading it that doesn't get off topic and they just read and you can just go about your day and do shit. It's black and white, right? It's the television replacing the radio. It's like, right?
Yeah.
It's you can't compete with that. Is there so? Got you for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay. Is there like a holy grail of narrating? Is there like a Super Bowl of would it be like, if I could get on like Michael Jordan or like Donald Trump or Joe Biden, right? That would be like podcast holy grail. Get some fucking Tom Brady, right? Get some crazy guest like that. Is there like a holy grail? Like
in terms of narrators?
No, yeah, no. I mean, just is there like a big game? Like, do you get chosen for like Game of Thrones or some shit to narrate the book? It's a stupid question, but I'm just curious. Is there like a,
Well, look, audiobooks in many ways is unlike pretty much every other part of the entertainment industry. But in certain ways, it's also the same. Mm-hmm. High-profile books are going to go to high-profile narrators, and that they could be celebrities, or they could be just, narrators who have really made a name for themselves. Mm-hmm. As far as someone like myself, the Holy Grail is just getting material that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
We all want to record bestsellers.
Yeah.
But most of us aren't.
Yeah.
You hope that through the course of your career, as you do more work, as you keep honing your craft and get better at it, and you get to work with more publishers and get to work on better material, that someday maybe you'll get that prime book that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
But those typically go to celebrities and the very small group of really well-known audiobook narrators. We do have an annual, actually there are several audiobook awards programs. The most known is the Audies. Mm-hmm. And they've been around for a long time. So that's a once a year award show.
And you won one, right?
Yes, I did back in 2016.
Fuck yeah.
And it was actually for an independent project, which was kind of rare.
Badass.
But the organization that runs the Audies, the Audiobook Publishers Association, they're trying to get more notice for the award show. So it used to be in May. They've now moved it into that awards period of January to March, where you've got all the different awards show, the SAG Awards, the Oscars, the Emmys. There's also the SOVAs, the Society of Voice Arts. I think I've got that correct. They're pretty well known, and they're associated with something called the Here Now Festival, which covers a lot more than audiobooks, and that's something that happens once a year in Kansas. There's the Independent Audiobook Awards, which has kind of grown a little bit in its prominence over the past few years. So we have a few avenues to gain some recognition and so forth. But the Holy Grail is just that,
Hell yeah. Just, yeah, because even as you were saying that, you're like, the Holy Grail is getting information, getting something I like. I began thinking, and I was like, is the Holy Grail really interviewing a president or Michael Jordan? Because no, I don't even watch basketball. So that is more of, that's like a subconscious, no, what would that mean? That would hopefully mean I made it, which would mean I have money, which means I can, move out of my parents' house. It's like, so that's what you really want, is to move out of your parents, right? It's not, it's right. And then, no, you're right. What would be the true holy grail would be, I just fucking have on guess who I want to talk to, right? Like if
that's it.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
it.
Okay.
I recorded a book a few months ago. That was just so beautifully written and tragic. It was a dual narration, so each chapter changed POVs. It's called Cherami and Major Whittlesey, and it takes place during World War One. And you got this guy, this wealthy guy, who lives in New York. He's gay, but he's in the closet, and he winds up joining the army and becoming a leader. And he gets sent over to Europe, and basically his battalion gets trapped, and it's just horrific, the death that they're dealing with, and his own internal struggles. The other part of the book is from the point of view of a carrier pigeon named Cherami, because Cherami is instrumental in helping to get this battalion saved.
Yeah.
But it was just so beautifully written, and I got to work with a really great director, which I've only worked with directors twice in my career, and to not have to worry about all the things you have to think about when you're narrating by yourself, to know that you're in the hands of this director who's listening to you, and they're gonna stop you when they think you could do something a little bit better, and they're not gonna tell you how to do it, but they're gonna say, think about it like this. Okay. And you go and do it again, and you're like, oh wow, right, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So to be able to record material that really lands, that really hits you, that you can immerse yourself in, I mean, that's why we love to act.
Yeah.
Because we can get those. It just it doesn't always happen.
Yeah. Those moments of it's like Christopher Nolan, who obviously Batman guy, but directed Interstellar, and then the Hans Zimmer, the composer.
Hans
Zimmer, yeah. There's like a cool like behind the scenes like video or whatever, it's on YouTube, and it's he didn't want to tell Hans what the movie was about, so he gave him the script to the first chapter, and I guess in the script of the first chapter, nowhere does it mention space or stars or black holes. It just mentions like it's really what it is.
Right. Well, the whole first act is it's dust and dying crops. And right. So you have no idea that this is going to lead to some interstellar time bending thing.
Yeah. So he gave him the script, and it was just like a dad talking to his daughter.
Yeah.
And it shows him composing like you'll notice it as soon as you hear him start it, and he's kind of reading it, and he's getting the vibe, and he made this thing, and he's like, yeah, this is what it is. And he was like, this is what I want for this like dad-daughter relation. And apparently Hans Zimmer was like, man, you could even do this for like deep space. And it was just like he clapped, and he's like, that's what it is. And it was like, and I was like, man, but yeah, that's how, right? That's how you get that real, that authentic, like, because you didn't know anything. And I was gonna say about like back to like celebrities, is like, man, like as I get older and like watch more movies, I'm realizing that like unless it's a comedy where like I just want to laugh like a moron, I actually don't like seeing famous actors, because how much of me is like, oh, that's the actor, versus like how much of me is like, this is about World War II, instead of like, oh, there's Tom Hanks. Instead, it's like, holy shit, this is D-Day. When you said like celebrity voice actors, like, no, fuck that, man. I would much rather have something like you. Like I've never even looked at the name of a narrator before, and like now I've talked to you, and I know you. But like when I'm listening to a book, like I don't want to have anything. I don't want to have like a mindset of who the narrator is. Like I really do just want like that third person, like God's eye view, just telling me the story. Like, all I want is they are delivering the information to my cerebral cortex.
Because if you're listening and you hear Matthew McConaughey's voice, you're thinking Matthew McConaughey's reading a story to me. I'm not experiencing it in the same way I would as if I didn't know who the person was.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is that for a high-profile book, celebrities bring sales. And, audiobooks are a business like any other.
Yeah, and I guess once you get to the high profiles, everyone's just a whore. So, I get it. If I had this big book and they're like, hey, you can quintuple your sales, I'd be like, fuck yeah, have whoever.
Well, but in situations like that, though, in a high-profile book, that's not an independent project. I mean, the only person I know of, the only author I know of who does independent stuff at times is Neil Gaiman. But, I think Neil Gaiman also does publisher-oriented stuff. But, if you're an author with a high-profile book, you're selling your audio rights to the publisher who's going to make the book. So you're going to get the same amount of money regardless of who's narrating it. And as an author, I'm sure it's an added little tickle of the benefit to know that Tom Hanks read my book.
Yeah.
But also, you probably just want the right voice who's going to bring your characters to life in a way that's true to the material.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Now, you said... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So at the beginning, you were like, I'm a smoker, and that's, contradictory to my work. Is it, though? Like, is there, can you develop, are there certain characteristics and qualities of a voice that maybe you can only get after years of reading and singing and being in a band and being an actor? Maybe there's a certain thing where it's like, you don't want me going like, and once upon a time in my high-pitched, shitty voice, maybe you want a little grumbly. Let me tell you, kids.
First, before I answer your question, I say, kids, smoking is bad for you.
Smoking is bad for you.
Really fucking bad. Don't smoke.
It's bad.
To a certain extent, I would say yes, that my treating myself perhaps not as kindly as I might otherwise has enabled my voice to do things that it might not be able to do had I not been abusing myself.
Yeah.
The type of gravel that I can get to is much more, is deeper, it's maybe more effective. The converse side of that is that I also can't go for as, apart from my energy issues.
Sure.
I can't talk for as long in the booth as I would had I not been a smoker.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's a trade-off.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe like a Charles Bukowski. If you ever watch any videos of him talking, it's just like the most gravelly, just like that guy. That guy's just had like a rough go. Yeah. I don't know. I was gonna say, for everyone listening to this podcast, they know my guilty pleasure is I just fucking love UFOs. I love everything about them, and I'm just that's just my guilty. I'm like, fuck yeah, flying saucers, different planets, but hey, that's what I dive into. There's a book, one of the original UFO books, called The Day After Roswell. It was written by Colonel Philip J. Corso back in he was there in 1947 when this so allegedly crashed. But not even getting into it. It is such a great story, whether or not it's real, whether or not it's full of bullshit, probably more towards the latter, but I don't care. I want to believe. That is the only book I have ever listened to. And I'm sorry to the narrator, I'm sure you're a nice person, is the worst narration I have ever heard of there are some that I don't like as much. There are some where I'm like, that kind of takes away from the story. This butchered the story. It's like if Gilbert Gottfried and Elmer Fudd fucked and then got drunk. It is the most insane, you can't listen to it. And it sucks because you know, because I'm a privileged bitch, I'm not going to read it. So I've just decided that I can't listen to this story. And I don't really know why I'm telling you that. It's not like you're going to go.
Well,
fix this.
we there's a widely used phrase in the audiobook industry. A great narrator can elevate a crappy book to be something special.
Yeah.
And a crappy narrator can just destroy a great book.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the way it is.
And I think that's what happened here. It is. I mean, it is. It got to a point where I kept listening. It's the only 1,077 titles. It is the only title I've ever returned. It is the normally if I don't like a book, I'm just like, whatever. I'm an idiot for
impressive.
Yeah. Not only that, I returned it, and a year later I bought it again and gave it a second shot. Got about 10 minutes into it, and I just said, "Fuck it, I can't do it." And so I returned it twice. It is horrible. It is just like, there we were in the middle of the desert, and it was shiny, and wow. And I was like, what the fuck am I listening to? I was like, this isn't...
Do you happen to know if it was an independent or publisher project?
I don't know, and I would kind of feel bad if I look up the person and say their name, but like I kind of...
All right, hold on. I'm going to look it up.
The Day After Roswell.
The Day After Roswell. Okay, let's take a look at this.
Roswell audiobook. Let's see. Day After...
We don't have to say anybody's name.
No, you can say it. I don't care.
The Day After Roswell. There it is.
Yeah. I kind of feel bad. I don't want to say their name.
I do not know. I do not know this narrator, and I know a lot of narrators. Now let's see how this was produced.
Yeah, I'm not going to say their name because I would just feel like a bully. Because it is a great book.
So this is interesting. So this was published by Simon & Schuster Audio, who is one of the biggest.
Yeah,
What not necessarily in terms of output, but in terms of quality.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting. Very interesting,
dude. I'm telling you, Hey man, maybe there's.
But here's the thing. So this goes back to what we were saying before, right? In the very beginning. So this book has 858 ratings and 4.3 stars.
That's some bullshit.
So it's all subjective.
Is that now? What are you looking at? So do I need to look at the ratings for? Are we looking at different ratings? Like, because I'm sure people that read the book liked it. Is there a way to...
This specific to the audiobook. So I'm on Audible.
Okay.
And right here.
All right.
You see those stars and the number of ratings?
Well, fuck me. Apparently, yeah. I'm going to pull it up on Audible, too. The Day After Roswell. Yeah, it's...
Now, and there are a bunch of written reviews as well. And you might find... If you, in spite of the very high number of very positive ratings, generally speaking, people are, well, I shouldn't say that. Possibly people are more willing to actually write a review when they're unhappy than when they're happy.
Yeah.
So I'm just scrolling through, some of the reviews, and I'm getting the sense that there are people who agree with you.
Great story. Okay narration. Interesting content, scary if true, hard to take seriously from the narrator. Yeah, great.
So
yeah.
We don't know why Simon & Schuster chose that narrator.
Dude.
We don't know if the author had any input in it. Who knows? Maybe that's what they... Have you ever heard that guy speak, the author?
I believe the author is dead. Philip J. Corso. I believe
probably.
I believe because I think he was a general in like Eisenhower's White House.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that guy's dead.
So who knows?
It is. I'm going out of my way to bring this up because I couldn't take the narration and I had to exchange it. This is a fantastic read, but good Lord, I can't not listen to it. Yeah, I mean, I guess I almost like have to.
And yet the overall ratings
Sure.
are 4.3. And if you've got an overall at 4 or above,
then who am I to be bitching?
People out there.
Yeah.
Well, you are a consumer just like anyone else, and you have a right to your opinion and your preferences.
Yeah.
This is what we were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah. I think I'm just disappointed because like I want to listen to the book. I mean, that's what it is. I'm just being a child. I'm like, okay, well, if I really didn't like it, why don't I just read it? Oh, I don't want to read it. Well, I clearly just explained how I can put it on Kindle and have the robot voice read it to me. I mean, I'm just being a child who needs like a warm glass of milk and a nap. That's what it is. I'm just being a bitch. But because
I think you're being too hard on yourself, sir. I think you're being too hard on yourself.
I think if you listen to this book, you would say that I'm not being hard, or you would say, yeah, no. I agree with you.
Look, this was something. Look, you said that you're really into this type of material. You're really into UFOs, right?
Yeah.
And here you've got a first-person account of what started, the whole thing.
Yeah.
In modern history.
Yeah.
Right. And you wind up with, Gilbert and Elmer drunk and fucking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, who wants to watch that? Maybe I'm being a complete hippie. Are you into ufology?
I am to a certain extent.
Because you said
absolutely.
You said the first thing that set it all off, and I was like, I didn't mention that. This guy knows about Roswell. So it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to enjoy it.
I am.
It's awesome.
I have been saying for a few years now that what we really need, this would be a great time for the aliens to show up.
Absolutely.
And, the kind that are, hundreds of thousands of years more advanced than we are, not the kind that's just going to wipe us out.
Yeah.
Because, that would tell everybody on this planet we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
That would make us understand that our place in the universe is not what we think it is. It might make people a little kinder to each other. If there was something greater out there that they could see, that's a kind of humbling thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. If there's ever been a time for them to show up, it's 2020.
Yeah.
They could show up right now and they wouldn't even be the main act. It'd be like flying saucers. We'd be like, dude, there's a pandemic. There's a contested election. Kobe's dead. It'd be like, get in line, man. Like, get in. Right. They'd be like, no, we come in peace. And it'd be like, cool, please put your mask on. Right? It's just like, fuck off. But, yeah. Dude, the guy I had on yesterday, Larry Holcomb, I've had him on 3 times now. His audiobook, where he's the author, Presidents and UFOs. That one is, if you enjoy UFOs, that one is about as unsexy, and that's why I love it so much, is because it's very raw facts, just quotes from sitting presidents and generals talking about this issue, and that's why I like it so much, because it's a scientific recap of, it's Harry S. Truman, while in office, flying saucers, given that they exist, are not created by any power on Earth. Gerald Ford, I don't think the Air Force is telling everything they should be telling us about about flying saucers. Jimmy Carter, I know flying saucers are real because I've seen one. Jimmy Carter asked when he was out of office, what was it like to be the most powerful man in the world? And he said, I don't know. I never was. I don't know, man. But again, I love that shit so much. I will go through cognitive dissonance to make myself believe it. I'll be like, nope, it's a conspiracy. The CIA has a gun to his head. It's all true. So I don't know if I'm the best person for it. But this podcast has been a successful podcast because we've ended up on UFOs. And to me, that's a sign of a successful podcast.
That's always a good thing, right?
If me and the person vibe and we let our guards down and I'm comfortable enough to say, hey, I fucking love UFOs, that means that we've clicked. So I appreciate it, my man. Dude.
Excellent.
I would love to have you on again sometime, man.
Absolutely.
It's great talking to you. That. Love to pick your brain. This is how I do it. Yeah.
For your authors who are not on audio.
Yeah. Can I give them your email?
Please feel free to give them my email. I'm not saying that I'm trying to narrate all of those authors' books, but if I can get them pointed in the right direction, I know a lot of narrators. I know a lot of narrators who are also producers. I know some people at the publishing companies. but I'm really passionate about audiobooks, as I know you are.
Yeah.
And if I can get them at least started in the right direction, I'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Absolutely. No, and I was going to recommend them, be like, just get you to narrate. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with getting work. No. But
I also don't want to present it that all I'm in this for is to get more jobs.
Sure. Okay, I got you. Yeah. I'll because I can. I probably got about 15 I can, and I'll give them your email. And then I'll ask any of them, like, hey, can I give him y'all's email? And I'd absolutely love it, man. Because I would love to see their books up. So that would be awesome. I got a guest on after this who actually needs his book on Audible too. I have him on all the time. I'm going to get him to. And I'm friends with him, so I'll be a little more rough with him. I'll be like, Roger, you bitch, email this guy. But Roger Williams, he wrote my favorite book, The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. It's a sci-fi book. It's probably the only fiction book I've read in the last 5 or 6 years. It is my favorite book, and it's not on Audible. I love it. And everyone that's read it has come back and said, this is my new favorite sci-fi book. It's insane.
Well, he's got to get on Audible then.
He absolutely does. But yeah, I got that, and I got to finish... I got to finish a 20-hour book from today, and I got about 6 hours left in it. But I have him, and then I have that. Point being is, send me a reminder email because I will not remember.
Okay.
This will be uploaded by tonight, and I'll send you a link to that. And
cool.
Send me a reminder email, and I'll try to get the ball rolling with all those authors. And
sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds good.
We'll set something up for December or January. No rush. And pleasure to talk to you, man. I hope to have you on again.
You too, Thomas. This is great.
All right, buddy.
Be well. Stay safe.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving, and stay safe, everybody. All right, man.
Right on. All right. Peace.